Good morning, everyone. It's 16 minutes past 8 o'clock. Welcome back to CW Iowa Live. Lou and Jackie here in Stivers, Ford, Lincoln. Downright proud to salute great organizations in town and great places that you have a chance to go check out in town. Again, with tomorrow's anniversary on December the 7th of a major event that happened involving the United States, this is a perfect place, Jackie.
That's right, and we have two of our favorites joining us in studio right now talking about our Gold Star Museum, something we're very proud to always talk about, downright proud. So we have Greg Hapgood and Mike Vogt here joining us today. So let's talk about a very special date that's coming up and what's happening with the Gold Star Museum.
Sure. December 7th is the 76th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor.
76 years ago.
76 years ago. Yeah, hard to believe. That day, of course, more than 2,300 Americans lost their lives, service members during the attack, including 87 Iowans who were killed.
That many. See, a lot of people didn't realize there were that many people that had Iowa roots.
Yeah. Mike and I were just talking about this before we walked in. The last Iowa Pearl Harbor survivor just passed away within the last 2 years.
I was just going to ask if we have any survivors left.
He was the last one,
okay.
Clarence Funteller. Yep.
Unbelievable.
Do we know what they were doing, what their main tasks were over there? Was it just spread out militarily across the board?
Well, you know, you have Army, Navy, Marines, all were there. You know, Mike has a great accounting of, you know, who was there and what they were doing. For instance,
there was a book published a couple decades ago about Iowa Pearl Harbor survivors, and it has an alphabetical listing of individuals, what their duty stations were, what they did, what their experiences were. Yeah, yeah.
I didn't realize that.
I don't know how many were printed. We have one, so I keep a close eye on that.
it's under lock and key.
Yes.
And so, who are we looking at here?
This is a chaplain, Aloysius Schmidt. He was from St. Lucas, Iowa. And he served aboard the USS Oklahoma. The Oklahoma gets hit by 5 torpedoes in the attack. Within about 8 minutes, it begins to list to one side and it rolls over. Wow. The crewmen are rapidly trying to escape from any way they can. Chaplain Lucas helps about a dozen guys through a porthole. He doesn't make it out. Oh, no. When they ended up raising the Oklahoma after the attack, his mass kit, he was a Catholic priest, his mass kit was found in his room, and that was taken to Loras College, and it's on display in Dubuque.
Is it really?
Wow.
How about that?
And actually, just recent news about Chaplain Schmidt. The Navy, he was nominated for a higher award than he received at the time, and in the very near future, they're going to present his family with the Silver Star, which is the 3rd highest award for bravery in the United States military.
That's amazing. There's just not enough Aloysiuses in the world anymore.
That's the only
right?
one I've ever heard of.
That's pretty amazing.
Aloysius Rolfus, who was one of the founders of the museum, Al Rolfus.
Really unbelievable. But we love hearing these stories of these incredible men that were a part of this unfortunate date. But it's important to remember them and their stories.
A Marine Corps Private First Class Max J. Schmeling served aboard the St. Louis. Navy ships oftentimes have a complement of Marines aboard to provide security for the vessel, and Private Schmeling was aboard the St. Louis, and that was the only vessel that got underway and got out to sea that morning.
Really?
The rest were either bottled up or damaged so badly that they couldn't put to sea.
Wow. All right, we have another one here talking about different names.
First Lieutenant Kermit Tyler. He's located at Fort Shafter the morning of the attack. An interesting story with him. He'd only been on the job one day, and when the radar unit up on one of the mountains near Honolulu picks up a large blip to the north and to the west, they phone that in to Lieutenant Tyler. He's the duty officer that morning. Okay. And they say, Lieutenant, we've got a big blip on the radar. What is it? He does what he's only able to do, which is look through what he's got on his desk in front of him, and he says, don't worry about it. There's a flight of US B-17s coming in from the mainland, so that's probably what you're picking up on the scope. Well, they picked up the Japanese aircraft, 100 plus, on the way in, but nobody knew that. So if you watch the movie Tora, Tora, Tora.
I was going to say, that sounds familiar from a movie.
He's the guy that says, yeah, don't worry about it.
Oh, no.
And not to be blamed.
He didn't know.
He only had what was in front of him. So what the conclusion he drew made sense to him and everybody else.
All right. It sounds like we have somebody from the Army Hospital, too, that we're going to be talking about.
Yes. First Lieutenant Marguerite Klein. She was from Kyoto, Iowa. And she served at Tripler Army Hospital, so she would have been very involved treating casualties, a lot of burn victims as a result of the attack and the explosions, burning oil on the surface of the water as the crews abandoned ship. So she did her part for quite a while after the attack, treating those casualties.
All right, and what else do we have here up on the screen? What else are we going to pull up on the screen here just to show you guys?
Robert Meyer, he served aboard the Nevada. He was in the band. And if you've seen the movie Tora, 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 at the very beginning of the attack, there's a band out there, and the bombs start to drop, and they're finishing the national anthem or whatever they're playing at the beginning. And he would have been one of those sailors aboard the fantail of the Nevada. The Nevada ends up getting underway, steams away from its berth in Battleship Row, takes a couple bomb and torpedo hits, and the captain realizes if this ship sinks in the harbor channel, nobody else is going to be able to get in or out. So he beaches the Nevada not far from the harbor entrance.
Wow.
And he was a crewman aboard that ship.
Amazing stories, and there's,
Unbelievable.
like you mentioned, over 80 stories like this, right?
And I only know about them either if I read them in that book or visitors bring in, like the last sailor that we saw. I didn't know that story, but I think it was his daughter brought in, or his granddaughter brought in the picture and said he was on the Nevada that day, and so looked him up, and sure enough.
And you like hearing things like that too, from family members, and they do have stories about Iowans that were involved in combat.
Correct. Yeah, we can connect those Iowans to interesting events, military service, exactly.
So, Greg, you have some things going on over there tomorrow, right?
Well, tomorrow, Pearl Harbor Day, of course, the museum will be open normal hours, 8:30 to 4 o'clock, and we just opened a brand new Pacific Theater exhibit for World War II, which has a display about Pearl Harbor within it. So, you know, public absolutely love to have them come out, see the museum, and particularly the Pacific Theater exhibit, and the Pearl Harbor piece of that might be very educational for people.
Okay, and what is the cost to get in?
There's absolutely no cost. The museum's always been free. Probably the coolest thing, besides being free at the museum, is it's dedicated to any Iowan who's ever served our nation. So that really makes it a jewel in Iowa's crown, if you will.
Well, it's an honor to have you guys here talking about some of the things that some Iowans did, some great Iowans did to ensure our freedoms. And again, more information, goldstarmuseum.iowa.gov. And if you have not been out there, folks, seriously, do yourself a favor, Jackie, and go out there.
Well, let's support the great men and women that have served our country, as Greg Hapgood was saying. But thank you for sharing these amazing stories with us this morning.
Glad to be here.
You're watching CW Iowa Live on Channel 23. We'll be right back.